Now that you've read Othello and we've discussed as a class some of the themes that Shakespeare brings up in the play, like race and gender, I want to introduce you to some film and TV adaptations, as well as a reading by Darth Vader. So, please make sure you have your copy of Othello to follow along, your handout, and a pen or pencil so you can answer the questions that I will ask during this video. In 1952, Orson Welles both directed and took the title role in a low-budget adaptation of Othello. This version was not extremely popular when it was first released, but when it was re-released in the early 1990s, it was very well received by critics and the general public. So while you watch the next 30 seconds of Othello's speech to the Venetian Senate, follow along in your book. It's Act 1, Scene 3, starting at line 157, and on your handout make a note of any changes in the script, and pay special attention to both director and actor decisions. The second adaptation, directed by Stuart Burge, also had a smaller budget than they anticipated. Notwithstanding, each of the principal actors received Oscar nominations and several Academy Award nominations. Laurence Olivier played Othello, and he adopted an exotic accent of his own invention, developed a special walk, and learned how to speak in a voice considerably deeper than his own. Also note that in both Welles and Olivier, they played Othello in blackface. How did these acting decisions change Othello's character, specifically in the view of Brabantio and the senators? This adaptation is Oliver Parker's 1995 version of Othello, with Lawrence Fishburne as Othello and Kenneth Branagh as Iago. As a note, if you study any more Shakespeare, you'll hear Kenneth Branagh's name a lot. He's won tons of awards for directing and producing and writing and acting. So this version was the first major cinematic production to cast an African American in the role of Othello. So what changes thematically when Othello is being played by a black man instead of played by a white man in blackface? Also, how do Parker's directorial choices during this scene change the audience's focus? Our final adaptation is this made-for-TV film produced in Britain in 2001. Othello is London's new Metropolitan Police Commissioner, and one of his police detectives, Jago, plays the deceitful role of Iago. This adaptation brings up more explicit modern themes of homosexuality and political corruption. Obviously, this version is not in Shakespearean language, and the director takes liberties in plot and theme. I've chosen to show you a scene where Othello is addressing a body similar to the Venetian Senate, but of course there are strong differences. What are your opinions on the plot changes? Is it appropriate to give these adaptations the name of Othello when it strays so far from Shakespeare's original work? I think I've saved the best for last, James Earl Jones. You'll know him better as the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa from Lion King, but he's done much more acting than that. He has played Othello several times on Broadway and in other productions. The following clip comes from the White House poetry reading, which happened in 2011. How is a reading different from the film productions, and what decisions does Jones make that are different from the actors in the previous clips? Alright, I've given you a lot to think about before our discussion next class period. Let's just do a quick recap of the questions I'll expect you to be prepared to answer. First, what kind of directorial choices were made in the film and TV adaptations, and what are the results of those choices? Second, what changes thematically when Othello is played by a white man in blackface rather than by a black man? Third, what choices do actors, or readers in the case of James Earl Jones, make that changes how an audience perceives Othello as a character? And fourth, should adaptations that stray so far from Shakespeare's original text in word and theme have the same titles as his plays? I really look forward to hearing your thoughts. We'll see you tomorrow.